Hi, who am I here with today?
My name is Asha Kamara.
Today we will talk about your experience with being a child bride. First question, how old are you?
I'm only 14 years old.
Where are you from?
I live in a town in the northern Ivory Coast in the sub-Saharan Africa.
At what age did you marry?
I married when I was only 14, basically this year. The ceremonies here are fairly common.
Why did you marry at such a young age?
It's a tradition in my family, and fairly common throughout the sub-Saharan Africa. Many girls marrying at a young age protects us from immortality, strengthens the clan relationships, and honors Islam. To quote one of my neighbors, Bobakar Maiga, if a girl doesn't marry at an early age, she'll sleep with many men. Nobody would want to marry her later.
How long has this tradition been around, and what's the apparent issue with it?
The biggest issue is that it's straight up pedophilia. This tradition is completely wrong, but it continues to survive for some reason. This practice has been thriving since decades ago throughout sub-Saharan Africa, most commonly in large Muslim populations. Many girls are often compelled to marry a distant relative over twice or 3 times her age before they even hit puberty. Most of the marriages are common in clans too.
I see. How does this tradition affect your education?
There's a women's rights activist. Her name is Constance Yai, and she states girls are often pulled from school and forced to drop their education to become a wife overnight. And even if they try to seek for help, there's no one they can turn to.
How did this practice stay alive?
There are a lot of sociologists and teachers of Islam law who justify the practice by claiming it promotes social stability, prevents promiscuity, I think that's how you say it, and cements ties between clans. Families also receive hundreds to thousands of dollars as dowry, which is probably the biggest reason why the tradition is still thriving.
And lastly, how did this make you feel on the wedding day?
I was never happy on my wedding day. There was the griots and neighbors cheering on my glorious day, but I didn't have a sense of happiness within me. I still remember the pink and white striped blanket I was covered in, and a sense of uneasiness inside me. I just wish none of it ever happened.
I'm sorry for that. Thank you for your time. That was all I wanted to ask. And sorry if it brought any back bad memories. We're doing this for research. Thank you again, Asha Kamara.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me on the interview.
Of course.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Roots and Rhythms. Today we are being joined by...
Hello, my name is Ilvi Njayokikjin.
Ilvi is an independent photographer and multimedia journalist from the Netherlands and can be recognized for her work in the New York Times, Der Spiegel, and Telegraph magazine. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm actually very excited you invited me here today.
So, I have a few questions for you.
Ask away.
Alright, so first of all, you interviewed a handful of young South Africans known as the Born Free Generation. How do they define their freedom in the post-apartheid nation?
Well, actually, it's very interesting you asked that. One of the young men I spoke to explained to me that with these newfound freedoms, he's free to do whatever he wants, saying that there are no barriers. However, I also interviewed a young woman who claimed that she doesn't believe in the idea of being born free.
I mean, they're both part of South Africa's young generation, so why aren't their ideas the same?
I asked her a similar question, and she said it was because people can't be born free until the country's economic inequalities are set right.
So then, there are barriers, and the youth are still struggling.
Exactly. To this day, a large amount of the born-free generation are battling unemployment, with rates ranging between 35 to 50%.
And how do they make a living?
I spoke to 22-year-old Innocent Mareku, who sells secondhand clothing on the side of the road. He said it's up to people to create their own jobs when nothing turns up, that people must find a hustle, and a majority of the young people I talk to believe white South Africans still have better opportunities.
But it's been over 2 decades since the apartheid has been abolished, and South Africa has had a handful of black leaders since then. So, how is this still the case?
They call it the black tax. Although many South Africans do make money, they still have to support their family members. Many have to work overtime to sustain their loved ones and also fix damages.
Oh, I see. How does this affect the way that different races interact with each other?
Well, the legacy of segregation still exists in South Africa. There are still towns where black or white kids are the minority. Some of them don't live in areas where they can meet or make friends with a lot of their racial counterparts. Language barriers are also an issue.
Do they still have any hope?
Very few of them were planning on voting in the elections after losing faith due to corruption scandals in the recent years. However, many of them are still hopeful for the future. They believe they're the clean slate South Africa needs.
This was episode 1, season 2 of Roots and Rhythms. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you Ilvi for coming in on the podcast to share the stories of the South African youth.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everyone, welcome to Her Story Unveiled, where we discuss topics relating to untold stories of women throughout history. I'm your host Leah, and in this episode, we'll dive into the story of Tamini Hagiso. So sit back, relax, maybe get some snacks, and let's dive into today's episode of Her Story Unveiled. Hello, today we're here with Tamini Hagiso of Ethiopia. She has been a midwife for 32 years now. How are you today, Tamini?
Hi Leah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here on this platform with us. From what I understand, you help deliver 100 babies a year. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow, that's incredible. You must be pretty popular in Ethiopia.
Thank you. I'm the only midwife in my village, so I try to make myself as available to these women as possible.
Tell us more about that. How does this affect your role in the village?
Well, I think I'm seen as a reassurance to these young women. I provide the village with regular prenatal checkups. I offer workshops at the church and examine my neighbors' babies when they come down sick. Anything I could do to put these women at ease.
Tamini, it's clear you play an important role in your community. The way you described your passion for supporting young women and families is truly touching. I've heard you're even getting support from the government now.
Yes, I'm very grateful for the government sponsoring my training from the Institute. They gave me the training I needed and the inspiration for my goals.
Before we dive into Tamini's goals, let's hear a quick ad from our sponsor, Oasia Health Professional Training Institute. Briefly mentioned in this episode, our proud sponsor, Oasia Health Professional Training Institute, is a great institute for getting tips on how to safely deliver babies, how to advise mothers on various issues, and getting the proper equipment for this line of work. If you are a mother, daughter, grandma, or just overall a woman who wants to help out another woman, the Oasia Institute is for you. They are here for you, your community, and our future. Thank you, Oasia Health Professional Training Institute, for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the video. Back to the goals we were talking about. What goals did you have in mind specifically?
I want to help continue the efforts to slash Ethiopia's mortality rate and the deaths of children in the first year of life.
And you're doing a wonderful job at contributing to this cause. The rate of deaths has gone down from 250 per 1,000 live births to 160. Okay, now, I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer after this exciting news, but there is another large problem that needs to be addressed. There is an overwhelming amount of adolescent girls who are forced to marry, have babies, and female circumcisions. Is there anything being done for this issue?
You know, honestly, as women, not much can be done about the power men have because they honestly are much older, stronger, and larger than these women. The best thing, especially as a midwife, is to inform these young ladies and make sure they're aware of all possible events for her and her child.
What an amazing response. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for listening. That wraps up today's episode of Her Story Unveiled. Bye!